So, when we want to grow more Saracenias from seed, we put the seeds down in every one of these pots, usually just one pot to one cross. On this group, there were about 400 separate crosses going in. And we simply let them stratify with a clear plastic cover over each one for about 2 months at about 36 degrees. And then we simply turn the air conditioner off and turn the lights on, and they can germinate right in place.
So you control the temperature in this room to affect the proper growth of that.
We have an air conditioner here, and usually you can't get them down, get a room down that cold with them. But this thing, which I don't understand at all, attached to the air conditioner, makes it do that, allows it to do that.
So these are planted from seeds in here?
Mm-hmm.
And so why are there so many plants? Do you have a whole bunch of seeds, or?
Well, these have all been transplanted once in clusters. So these flats have already been transplanted once. Something like this has not been transplanted yet. And there could be up to 100, more likely 50 seedlings in this pot.
Wow. And so they're not damaged by pulling them apart and separating them out?
They can take a shock from that.
Yeah.
But they almost always recover. And Saracenias are a plant that actually likes disturbance to a point. They like to be transplanted fairly frequently. There is no doubt a trauma pulling them apart. Sometimes I just pull them apart several at a time and plant the whole cluster. And,
but this just seems like this is the most efficient way to make large numbers of them, is to grow a bunch of them in a cluster like that and break them up.
It is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody else may have, well, most people actually stratify their seeds in a refrigerator.
And what does stratify? What does stratify mean?
Stratifying is a term for giving these plants a cold period, cold and wet, which breaks down the germination inhibition chemicals. And our food crops are related to plants that still have that capability, but we've bred that out of our food crops so we can just plant the seeds and boom, they can grow.
Right, yeah, and the idea is with a lot of plants is the seed isn't supposed to germinate until the right time of year.
Right.
And so the inhibitors make sure that it's timed properly.
Yes, and they break down over the period of 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Of the cold wet.
Yeah.
It's got to be cold and wet to do it.
Yeah.
And most people stratify their seed in a bag, refrigerator, and then they plant. I just have way too many to do that. This is the most sufficient for me because I only have to handle the seeds once. I do have to spray with a fungicide fairly frequently because once it warms up, you know, you got these perfectly 100% humidity situations where the mold can explode. So I generally have to check them every week for that.
And then to keep track of all these different varieties, of course, you have them labeled and tagged.
Labeled, yep.
So that each one is, you're sure of who it is and where it belongs.
As long as I do it right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I can see there's a bunch of different varieties here just by looking at all the different colors and shapes and stuff.
Well, I'm going to go over this with you on the species, what each species contributes. Because each species really makes a unique contribution to the hybridization.
So when we're talking of species, are the ones that can be interbred subspecies of a species, or are they distinct species as well within a genera?
Any species in Saracenia will cross with any other species.
Wow, okay.
And the pollination is very simple. I can do it with my finger in seconds and move on to the next one.
Yeah, and how is, who's the pollinator in the wild?
Bumblebees mostly.
Bumblebees?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't really had much experience with Saracenia flowers. I haven't really seen them or how they're structured.
They're rather beautiful.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's one of America's finest wildflowers.
Wow.
And I don't grow them for the flowers. The flowers are an added benefit. A lot of people take their flowers off because it draws some energy from the plant.
Yeah.
But I don't bother with that. I'll pay that price to have a greenhouse full of flowers for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course you're breeding them, so you got to have.
Yeah, you know, I'm breeding them. I got to have some flowers. Yeah.
Yeah, these are amazing. Cute little pictures on them.
I'm sorry?
They have such cute little pictures on them compared to the big ones.
By the time the plant is this size, it can actually start catching something.
Oh, sure.
Some small insects.
Sure. There's a fly. There's a fly flying around right now.
I have seen a yellow jacket head first in a trap not much bigger than
really?
this.
Good job. Okay, so you got a series of greenhouses here, and I'm sure these are...
Cactus and succulents.
Oh, I gotta have a look at those.
You will.
I'm a southwestern desert guy. Oh, wow. Snoring desert.
You have, you're wearing a lot of hats, but they're all related.
Yeah. I just love the Snoring Desert. It's just like one of my favorite places. And I've been going there for decades. No, Arizona.
Arizona, okay.
I've been to Mexico.
Does it extend into Mexico?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And there's some different Sonoran Desert, distinctive Sonoran Desert habitats too. All right, so.
These are leucophyllus. These are just starting to go past now. Leucophyllus mature late, and they're white. They're picking up moths and other night-flying insects.
Oh, that
in
makes
the
sense.
fall,
That makes sense.
when they reach the peak. And they just stand like ghosts there and suck them up. Beautiful plants. Well, we have species and hybrids here. We have Leucophyllus, the white pitcher, which can also occur with strong red markings or almost pure white.
So that's this variation
pink.
Within that. There
are variations. Now, I suspect that these other strong colors are coming from other species of Saracenia. Like rosea, possibly, or possibly Alata sometimes, because I don't think they would have come up with this on their own. For one thing, I think it would put them at a disadvantage at catching night-flying insects. These colors, these strong colors.
And so, when you're looking to reproduce these by seeds,
yes,
you would look at the phenotype of a plant. And say, okay, I like this, and I want this, and what will happen if I mix it with this dark red one, and what will I get, and sort of some experimentation. And then when you see something that you like, then you can move towards that.
On it. Yes.
And
that's Wilkerson's Red Rocket. That's a plant that's a wild plant from Wilkerson Family Reserve. There were 3 bogs, 3 different people in the family. I forget which one this is from, but that is an extraordinary plant. I love the red turning into white with a strong pink-red lid.
Yeah, it sort of outlines it.
This is one of the very most beautiful cultivars of any species that I know of. Saracenia.
Wow. And so you get a lot. At some point, you have to make a judgment. You have a bunch of offspring of some cross, and you have to make some selection. And that's just subjective, isn't it? Just like your aesthetic interest, or
on the first transplant, about the only thing you can be sure of is how vigorous they are, and a lot of that is by accident. How soon the seed germinated compared to the others, but that's about the only thing you got. You can see into the color somewhat. But Leucophyllus seedlings don't develop the white till they're about that tall. So you really don't know by the time I have to make the first transplant as to what is going on there for sure. Reds develop more quickly, and you can generally pick up reds on the first transplant. You can tell the colors from that. Yellows and reds.
Are there any other challenges about these as far as like disease resistance? You talk about hardiness, or how, I mean, are some of them
There's a wide range of hardiness in Saracenia if we're talking cold hardiness. Most of the species are pretty much stacked around above the Gulf. Probably the highest number of species is in the Florida Panhandle. All the tall species are restricted to the southern part of the range. Say Virginia. Southern Virginia is as far north as any of the taller species grow. purpurea, there's basically 3 varieties of purpurea. One crowds down through the Gulf, and it has gorgeous pink flowers. And some people put that in rosea now, put it in a separate species.
Mm.
The one further north is Purpurea venosa. Would you like a picture of Purpurea venosa? Or anything?
Sure.
And the farthest one north is Purpurea purpurea, which grows a long ways up into Canada. In some forms will stand minus 30 degrees.
Wow, that's quite a range.
Where the southern forms can pick up damage at 15.
So how are those surviving in those really temperate? Is there snow covering them up that protects them, or or the roots can just withstand being frozen?
I think they freeze hard.
Yeah.
They freeze hard all the way down.
Yeah.
I had a freeze on my deck once. I lost all the Darlingtonias, and all the Saracenias went down to -3, which is really weird here.
Yeah, it's cold here.
We lost everything except an Oreophila, which was damaged, and the Purpurea just laughed at it. He didn't care at all. I suspect that Purpurea shuts down its metabolism a lot further in order to take the cold.
Yeah.
And goes far more dormant. The other species really don't go dormant. They make strong wood growth all through the winter.
Wow.
Here are some Purpurea venosa forms. And these are really beautiful forms with strong markings. There's a lot of venosas that don't, are not as exciting as...
Do these get taller? I mean, do these grow up tall like these?
These stay small.
So they're really short little pitchers.
Yeah. And these are open pitchers.
Yeah.
Where these are closed pitchers. If these were open, the water would accumulate till they just fall over.
Yeah.
Now, these have digestive enzymes. All the species, I think except Perp and maybe Cetacea, have digestive enzymes. When you get to Purpurea, they have none, because it would just be washed out by the
Yeah.
There are 2 commensal species of insects. One some type of fly and one type of mosquito. And they process the bugs that fall in here. And the plant simply absorb that processed.
So it's like the fly larvae live in there and eat the insects that fall in. Oh, okay, cool.
It's a whole little ecology.
Yeah.
People have studied Purpurea pitchers because each one is a little ecological thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
So a lot of these are brown. So like you say, they're like past their...
These are very fast.
Oh, these are the blooms.
That is a seed pod, but it's probably a sterile seed pod. This is what remains of the flower after the petals drop.
Yeah.
So you end up with the sepals, and you end up with this structure that comes out of the pistil, in which, right here, is where you put the pollen on each.
Oh, wow.
And the pollen will accumulate in this cup. And when the bumblebees get in, they cover themselves with that pollen. And then they rub against these going out.
Yeah. Yeah, bumblebees are unique pollinators. They do some things that other bees just don't do.
And they can crawl their way into this flower. And smaller insects may not be able to crawl their way into the flower. And often, when I'm pollinating, when it's late in the season, usually outside, because on the inside, generally I get my flowering before the bumblebees are out, which helps in pollination. But I will often find a bumblebee. When I go to do my pollination, the flower buzzes.
Yeah,
because a bumblebee has stayed in there overnight.
Yeah. They do that sometimes. It gets cool and they just shut down and wait till it warms up.
Yes.
Oh, here's some succulents.
Yes, there are some.
These look like, what are these?
These are amaryllis.
Oh, yeah.
Elaine has a thing for amaryllis.
I like lilies, Asiatic lilies, not the smelly ones. I don't like the smell, but I like the lilies.
People don't.
Yeah, it's too much for me.
So these are minor giants here. The giant form of minor is one I work with. I don't usually work with the standard forms because standard forms are fairly low growing. I like the tall ones.
These have really a developed hood on them, don't they?
Yes, they do. And the thing here is with insects that land here to catch the nectar. They will fly towards this because it's lighter here.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
They hit the back, they go right down.
Yeah. Now, when you say nectar, the plant produces some attractant.
Yes, it does.
And it's just on the edge?
You usually, in season, you know, they produce a lot of oozy shit right around here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And it gets gooey and mucusy.
Yeah.
And it contains a substance that I've forgotten the name of. It may be an alkaloid, it may not, that makes insects confused.
Oh, really?
A little more stupid, a little more stumbling.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah, that's so tricky.
I love it how plants are doing stuff like that.
I checked that out by licking a bunch of them, but apparently it would take a lot more.
Yeah.
I saw a hummingbird working over them once for quite a while, and it still flew straight. So maybe it's a specific insect.
Now, look at the strange hood on this one. It's really big.
This is distorted. Now, this can be what happens. This is the picture I would like. But we're combining plants that have entirely different hood shapes together in these hybrids.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of them just can't figure it out.
Yeah.
The genes just don't...
They're not working together in the right way.
They're not happy with one another.
Yeah.
Because...
Yeah, because this is really weird. Weird and misshapen.
That plant has Psittacina in it. And you can see how different the shapes of this plant is compared to a lot of the others.
You can even see where the hood is.
Another thing about this plant, there I got it back up again, is this is where they go.
Opening? Oh my gosh.
And this happens when they're submerged in water. This is a fish weir.
Oh, sure.
They go in.
And it can't get their way back out.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really don't catch much unless they're submerged in water. So in the winter, I think, when they're doing most of their feeding, the species, it's a unique adaptation.
That's really cool.
Yes. And I can combine this. A lot of people don't have any respect for Psittacina that do Sarracenias. It's small. They almost rather stomp it than save it. But first generation hybrids of Psittacina.
Well, it's not just about what they look like; it's about what they're doing.
Yeah, this is fucking amazing.
That really makes them fascinating.
Yes.
There's a lot of organisms like that. They don't look very spectacular, but they do some amazing things.
But I can do things with them in breeding. Most people haven't gone beyond primary hybrids in Psittacina, but I'm going to be able to show you some stuff.
Is there like a seed pod in here? Someone saving?
Yes. Where'd you find it?
It was right here.
I had it here because I didn't have a pencil and the label was screwed up, so I just set it there.
Yep, keep your data straight. This is really a striking one.
I think so too. I'm trying to get this basic black and white look.
Yeah.
White on black. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a while coming, but we're getting there now. This is a cross between Atlas and Prometheus, both of which are Leucophylla minor giant crosses. Times Dana's of Light, times Gophensis, times Red Leuco. And this one came out really dark, which can happen. And I have several that are very dark that I'm breeding together.
That's a hell of a pedigree. Oh, this one's really kind of yellow.
Yes, it is. That has unusual
Oh, it is
coloring.
sticky.
It's got very strong venation on it.
Oh, and it tastes sweet, too.
It is. It is sweet.
The stickiness tastes sweet.
Definitely.
You know the difference. And this one is really rose color.
What's very nice about this plant is its vigor.
Oh, God.
Look at all the divisions.
Yeah.
I don't find... One thing that happens in colder weather, you generally get paler colors.
Okay.
And I don't find the colors on this plant to be particularly spectacular. What I want out of this plant is that branching ability.
Yeah.
So that I like plants that come up in a big bouquet.
So you might be able to transfer that genetic characteristic into other plants by crossbreeding them. And this one is tagged here with some yellow.
That means I wanted a picture of it, but it's too late now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, when it was going strong.
Now, here is a plant that has some of that Psittacina in it and some perp. This Psittacina times perp makes a plant they call cortii. I abhor the use of Latin names for hybrids. And yet it was common in Saracenia early on when they found the natural hybrids and thought they were different species, and the names have stuck to them.
Yeah.
But you see how the Cetacea has influenced this hood?
Yeah, definitely.
It's put this curve in it, and they have really stiff leaves that won't
they're
collapse.
sturdy. Yeah.
They hold up very well, and they last late, sometimes past Christmas. And that's a big thing in breeding, because the nurseries are going to want shorter plants that don't fall over and will look good late, especially through Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. And I assume these are all just younger versions of the stuff here, or are they smaller plants?
I'm sorry?
Are these just younger versions of
these
this sort of thing?
These are taken from what we call back bulbs, back rhizome pieces. Because the rhizomes in Saracenia, most species, went out linearly, like this.
Yeah.
First they stretch out, and then later, as the season progresses, they fill in and become wider and stronger and full of sugar and so on. And you can cut that rhizome when it's about this long in two. You carry the front of it ahead to make the plant you're either keeping or selling or so on.
Yeah.
The back part of the rhizome, we have about 95% take on them making plants the next year.
Ah.
And
so it's a way
going on here.
Vegetative reproduction.
Vegetative reproduction, indeed.
Nice.
We're so full now we can't do it this year, I think. And that bed also, except for the lucos here on the end. That's pretty much the same thing there.
Yeah.
This is one thing that I'm working on, and that is these red plants with a lot of white in the top.
Yeah.
I find that lovely, an absolutely lovely thing. This one is Elaine's Ice and Fire, which I named for my wife, and its progeny is very important to me, because this plant has a characteristic that is not shared by all white and red plants. The white persists late instead of all turning red. It hangs on.
Oh.
So that color will stay, and that's a very valuable trait in breeding this kind of stuff.
So the colors expressed in the pictures over the life of the picture change somewhat.
They can. They can. And especially true of plants that are yellow and red or white and red, that the red will overtake the other colors later in the season. But not all of them.
I like this contrast. I see where this is going.